We're going to start out with just having you say your name, your branch, and your role in the military.
Okay. My name is Anita Baxley Pettit. I was in the Army for 7.5 years as a nurse.
Okay. What made you want to join the military?
I had no money and I was trying to get to college, so I had a ROTC scholarship. And I earned a 4-year scholarship to Creighton University. And after I graduated, I was commissioned.
What were your expectations before joining the military?
Before joining the military, I had seen it as a peaceful job because there hadn't been any conflict since Vietnam, roughly since the 1960s. And so in my lifetime, the opportunity to serve in the military was similar to that of a civilian job. There was no significant difference.
Were you apprehensive or scared about joining the military even though you signed up?
I was never. I grew up close to a military base in Germany, and I understood the military lifestyle, I thought, fairly well, and was accustomed to the rank structure as well as the discipline, and so I was rather excited to be a part of it.
Did you ever have second thoughts?
Never.
Have you ever been involved or had combat experience?
I do. I was deployed to Desert Storm, Desert Shield in December.
Have you ever been involved in combat experience?
I have. I was deployed to Desert Storm, Desert Shield in December of 1990, and it was a short 100-hour conflict is all, but it took a lot out of us as far as supplies and emotions, and it was something new, because again, there hadn't been any conflict really since the 60s.
What were your expectations before going to war? How was the reality different?
Well, everything that I had seen had been based on TV sitcoms like MASH or other shows that were on television, stories like All Quiet on the Western Front that we had to read in English class. And so I wasn't quite sure, but this was a very different situation because, as you know, in All Quiet on the Western Front, the book that you read, the warfare is trench warfare, so people are seeing each other eye to eye. And in Vietnam, from what I have read and understood, there's still man-to-man conflict, whereas here in Desert Storm, for people in the medical field, we are far enough back watching the Scuds go over us, and the Patriot missiles go over us, and then we receive the injuries. We weren't really connected with the wartime situation. It was more of technology being used to injure people.
Were there decisions made during the war that you didn't agree with, yet you still carried out orders? How did you discipline yourself and do that willingly?
I don't recall anything that I vehemently disagreed with, but there's always things that I think in any job situation where a boss is going to ask you to do something that you might not agree with, and that it certainly is a tough place to be, but that did not occur for me.
What were the physical and emotional trials of military service?
Well, the physical are wonderful. There's mandatory workouts every day, and that's a good thing. It keeps you in shape, and I enjoyed that. The tough part for me was you don't have any control over what kind of job you're going to get or where you're going to go next. I was very fortunate and had wonderful assignments, but not all my friends were as fortunate.
Are there any war stories you would like to share or are able to share to give our class more insight to wartime service?
I guess the toughest thing that we went through at our hospital was we had to care for enemy prisoners of war. So you go to war expecting to hate the enemy or to defeat the people you're against, and certainly the media feeds into that. And we were in our 8th evacuation hospital, and on January 21st, actually a weapon went off in a tent of the 101st, and all of their casualties, American casualties, self-inflicted, came into our 8th evacuation hospital. And we cared for, I think, about 14 patients. They all survived. One of them was transferred to the Mercy, the ship. It was a very serious accident. It was tough to see American soldiers demolished in such a way. And then there was a long period where we didn't have anything because of the type of war that it was. There weren't many American soldiers coming back. to the hospitals. They were treated more on the front lines and air-evac'd out. So we went for a long time bored with nothing to do. And I think in the same thing in All Quiet on the Western Front, there's parts of days where I think Paul is his name, the main character, is bored, and that's hard. That can be difficult to fight the boredom when you're in the middle of nowhere and you have to be on alert, so to speak. But then in February, we received, I want to say, over 200 enemy prisoners of war. And these were men that we had to take care of that were very rude and disrespectful, especially to women. And so we had to clean and feed them, and we had to find the correct food for their religious beliefs, which meant we had to put ourselves at risk and travel to go get them the food that they needed. It was a very interesting situation, but as nurses and as officers in the military, we take an oath, and those were some ethical dilemmas there to really struggle with. Mm-hmm.
Did you feel proud of your country for fighting?
Absolutely.
How did your opinions of war change afterwards?
My opinions of war haven't changed in the sense that I believe there is a cause for a just war, and there is a need to defend the Constitution, and there is a need to defend individual rights.
Did you feel more proud to be American or more patriotic after serving in the military?
I've always been very patriotic, and yes. We marched in a parade, 8th Evacuation Hospital. We were asked to be in a parade, and it was very inspiring. Mm-hmm.
Do you have any regrets?
Absolutely not.
Would you serve again if given the chance?
In a heartbeat.
What is the one thing our class should know about serving in the United States military?
It's an absolute privilege to serve.
Is there any other information you would like to add?
No, from the medicine standpoint, I'll tell you military medicine is on the forefront.
You started with how this relates to our book. Can you go from there if that's okay?
Sure. How this relates to your book, your characters in this story, especially Paul, he finds himself questioning why he's there. And how is it that he went from his childhood, one day having a good time, to now losing his friends? He doesn't have any of his